Hi, I'm Jim W6LG, your ham radio Elmer here on YouTube. Welcome to my radio room in beautiful Rockland, California. As you can see, it is a beautiful day here. Temperatures are in the low 60s and it's a beautiful sky. So it's a lovely day in the neighborhood. 3 days ago, I did a YouTube video, or an episode rather, about the cost to get on HF, and I created like 3 columns on a spreadsheet. And that's gotten a good response, and I asked for comments about what I might have missed or what suggestions others would have to get on HF. Some answers were, I did it this way because it was less expensive. All those are good. If you're considering getting on HF, which is what I'm most passionate about in ham radio, read through those comments. It can be a quick read. You can summarize them. But if you're not on HF, go through those comments, see what works for you, and then follow that path to get on HF. I'd like to comment in just a broad sense on several comments that had the same answer, or none of them were criticisms. They were all helpful. There isn't a bad one in the bunch. They're all great. Several people over and over again recommended the Xiegu G90. The reason why I didn't recommend it, and Rod and I talked about low power. K5FRH helped me craft some of the answers. The G90 is 20 watts max out, and maybe in some cases slightly less. If you're competing with others for some attention on the busy ham bands, and you're down, let's see, that would be about 7 dB, because if you double 20 watts to 40, that's 3 dB. If you double 40 watts to 80, I'll get it right yet, that's another 3 dB. Then from 80 to 20, that's probably 1 dB. So all total, that's about 7 dB down, or more than an S unit. And what I'm afraid of is that somebody will have that. It's a wonderful transceiver. I've got another comment I'll make in just a minute, but I'm afraid that you might get the person might get frustrated with not getting answers to CQ, or calling somebody that is calling CQ and responding and getting crushed by somebody with 100 watts. 7 dB is a lot. And if somebody is 7 dB stronger than you are, he's going to be heard, and you may not be heard. There are other variables that play into it. So I didn't recommend the G90. The other comment I was going to make about Xiegu is, can a 100-watt transceiver be far behind? And I think not. So they're developing their product line. The G90, from what I've read, is a phenomenal transceiver. I would prefer a little bigger box, like the 7300. Oh, I know. Another one that came up was, in the 1960s, and I was licensed in 64, March of 64, somebody would say, well, I was able to buy this Hallicrafter's receiver, or because there were very few transceivers. Pretty much you bought a transmitter and a receiver. So I added up what other guys said that they bought because they did it on their paper route or mowing lawns or whatever. That may be, but if you trend forward the cost of that equipment, which in some cases was $350 to $400, in today's dollars, it would be $4,000. It would be 10 times. So keep that in mind. If you think about the good old days, in a Hammerlin receiver was $130, well, it would be 10 times that price today, and that's just the receiver. All right, let's chemo affects my vocal cords. Let's look at the comments that were made, and again, they're all great. I'm not going to say anything, but there's one exception I will say something negative about. But I've read through them all. They're really interesting. Great advice. Again, if you're thinking about getting on HF, read through the comments. You couldn't ask for a better resource. So let me bring those things up on the screen, slide me off. There were some things that I forgot to add, or I didn't even think about adding to my list of equipment. And this one, Jerry makes a good point, a PC. This one, it's also Jerry. All right, Jerry, get 2 points. Jerry also recommended a dummy load. And that's, if you got an amplifier, it's an extraordinarily handy thing to have. This one is good, and I mentioned it in passing and in my introduction to the video. And this is quite true. A lot of clubs have equipment that can be loaned or sometimes purchased, and build your own dipole. Good point. In some cases, you can get that for free, and you might save yourself $1,000. This one was building your station over time. QRP POTA, I can't quite recommend that. I know that, and I know who that's from. He's been having a blast doing POTA, and it is kind of expensive, but it can be a lot of fun. But what I'd like to recommend is, before you venture out into POTA land, think about your station, your home station. Hi, Callum. The DX Commander with his just phenomenal antennas. I don't own one, but I've looked at how they're constructed online, and it's just an amazing product. I didn't recommend going mobile or a mobile type transceiver because I wanted a fully functional 100 watt, put it on the desk. It's got some knobs and some front panel controls that don't exist on the 891, something a little physically bigger. But for some, that is an answer. Now, here's the one that really bugged me. And it was, and I'll read it as best I can. I was studying for my general, all set to run right out and get the ticket. And then I came up with very similar numbers to yours. That is where I lost interest. I'm sorry. If you're really interested, you'll find a way. Whether it is through a club or a neighbor, you'll find a way. This tells me you weren't really interested. And this one was really good advice. Peter writes, buying a used transceiver from a reputable dealer. I mentioned that again in passing. I went back and looked at a couple of dealers like HRO. And yes, they have some equipment. Some of it's not a huge discount, but it may be enough to make it worthwhile, especially since, like HRO, you're not going to find a better place to buy something than that. This one was, and Jay's a good friend, and he said spend 85% of your budget on the antenna. That's hard to do if you're just starting out. That the proportion may be that you spend 85% of your dollars building the station, and you make a dipole for $50. I don't know. This one is, I would go with the 7300, and Callum's DX Commander Rapide at $300. And so at $1,400 or $1,500, you got pretty much everything you need. Callum, your fan club is here. Best advice: get a DX Commander. what I would recommend, I'll have to go look and see how much a tubular tower costs these days. Oh, and this is another item that I forgot, and it's really handy. I've got several. I like the Rig Expert a lot. An antenna analyzer. It is something that if you're active on HF and building your own antennas, then it's just super handy. I bought the least expensive one. It is the AA35. It goes to 35 megahertz, so it's perfect for HF. So, what do you think? If you don't mind making another set of comments, most of us have read through all of them with great interest. After you see all that and you weigh the pluses and minuses, what is the one recommendation that you would make to a friend? And let's assume that he's in an area with not a lot of ham radio operators. There are clusters in some places. There are 700,000 in the U.S. It's I think 750,000 licensed hams, but not many are. Not a large percentage are on HF. So my question to you is, what would you advise? You've read through these comments. What do you think? What would you do? Let's save that first column for the beginner. What would be your recommendation for somebody who wants to get on HF, but needs to spend as few dollars as possible? What would you recommend? We all know what the top of the line station can be. It's easy to go to a website and look at the best of everything. But what's your advice? And thank you for doing that. I think it's helpful to others who are interested in HF, who have a sincere interest and really do want to get an HF. And it's a blast. It really is. I would appreciate it. And I think those who watch these two videos will also appreciate it. I'm Jim W6LG in Rockland, California, saying thank you very much for watching. Look forward to your comments. If you have not subscribed, please do that. 73. Thanks.